Hi, thank you so much for joining us for Citizen at 1. My name is Willis Raburu, and our top story this hour: journalist Walter Baraza will have to wait until the end of this month to know his fate on whether the Kenyan government will hand him over to the ICC for trials. This is after Justice Richard Mwongo postponed his ruling in a petition filed by Baraza to challenge his extradition, pending hearing of the Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olalenku's request to enforce the extradition of. So we will be bringing you that story in a short while. Meanwhile, still in the corridors of justice, the High Court has upheld the government ban on night travel by public service vehicles. Justice Isaac Lenaola dismissed a case filed by a group of public transport companies seeking to have the ban lifted, saying the companies did not submit enough evidence. Let's take a look.
All actions taken under the Transport Licensing Act.
Starling and Products Limited sought through its petition to have the ban on night travel lifted, but it was dismissed by Justice Isaac Lenaola.
I choose to invoke the public interest as opposed to the short-term private convenience of the applicants.
The High Court judge ruled that the application has no merit, and the applicants framed the application in a wrong manner, focusing on a non-existent night ban, as companies have channels to apply for special licenses for night travel. He further stated that there is a wider public interest that road carnage should be reduced and lives saved. This is the second case seeking to have the ban lifted, as Justice David Majanja is set to give another ruling in another case where the Kenya Country Bus Owners Association and 9 other bus companies also sought to have a ban on night travel lifted.
The applicants have not argued, for example.
Through lawyer Harrison Kinyanjui, the association and the bus companies said that the quote-unquote sudden and draconian enforcement of the night travel ban was a violation of the Constitution. They said they were not given a chance to show that they are licensed to conduct night travel. They had argued that they stood to suffer losses if the ban remains in place. Right, indeed, a busy day in the court, and 6 suspects who were accused of alleged involvement in the suspicious death of former Juja MP George Thu have denied the murder charges in a Nairobi court. The suspects Paul Boyo, Christopher Andika, Andrew Wanaina, Samuel Ngugi, Esther Mulinge and Ruthi Rungu appeared before Justice Rosalind Correa at the Milimani court. They are accused that on the night of November 17th last year, with others not before the court, they murdered Thu. Thu collapsed and died in unclear circumstances at Club Porky's in Thika, and detectives from the CID headquarters who carried out the investigations into the suspected murder of Thu said test results showed that he was poisoned. The suspects are currently being detained at the Muthaiga police station. The case will be mentioned on the 10th of February to give the state time to reply to the suspect's bail application. All right, now, an Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, will this afternoon preside over the launch of the 4-month selection exercise at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. The top candidate in last year's Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams scored 444 marks, and out of the 840,000 candidates, 467,000 scored below the average mark of 250. In its guidelines for the 4-month selection, the government directed that the top 2 candidates of each gender from each county be accorded places in national schools, irrespective of whether they studied in private or public schools. Last year, the 78 national schools accommodated 16,000 pupils. And now, police imposter Joshua Waiganja was rushed to the Naivasha District Hospital in a critical condition after ailing while serving his term at the Naivasha GK prison. The convict, who was sentenced to serve a 2-year jail term, developed medical complications and was rushed to the hospital, where he was immediately admitted. Now, according to the doctors treating him, Waiganja is suffering from hypertension, diabetes and gout, but his condition is slowly improving. Waiganja hit the headlines early last year after he was arrested for posing as an assistant commissioner of police a position he still insists he holds. Now, still with matters of police, the Police Reforms Working Group now wants the National Police Service Commission to extend the period within which the public is required to submit information on the interviewees from 10 to 14 days to allow for more public participation on the officers. Now, the Executive Director of the Independent Medical Legal Unit, Peter Kiyama, also called on the Commission to share information with the public about names of officers to be vetted, stations where they served, and the durations each interviewee served in their particular stations. Now, the Police Reforms Working Group urged the Commission to also concentrate on the human rights violation, management of other officers, and integrity issues.
Whereas financial probity is a critical component in the vetting exercise, it is our considered view that this one aspect is taking up almost the entire vetting time.
The Commission has given a compromise, and the compromise is that for us to enable ourselves to conduct this particular exercise, we have committed, as a Commission, they have said that they are going to pay off those who are found unsuitable. But the catch is, and I think Kenyans need to understand this, the catch is, once you are found to be unsuitable and incompetent, you can no longer serve in public service. So we don't pay you off, and next month you are appointed to a public position. That is the essence of a transition of vetting, which I think the media needs to explain to Kenyans.
And across our borders, peace talks aimed at ending weeks of deadly fighting in South Sudan are ongoing in Ethiopia's capital of Addis Ababa despite slow progress. President Salva Kiir has ignored a ceasefire condition set by the rebel side, requiring him to first release the 11 political detainees arrested by government troops before the breakout of the fighting in mid-December last year. Esther Kahumi with that story.
The talks in Ethiopia continue to tread water, this despite the mediators having met with each of the warring sides, first President Salva Kiir and then leader of the rebels Riek Machar, each side still standing firm on their demands. The rebels are accusing Uganda of aiding Kiir of launching airstrikes against their positions, accusations that Uganda has denied. Ugandan troops are still in South Sudan patrolling Juba's airport and guarding the presidential palace. All this at Kiir's request.
We have harmonized from the two delegations, and that is where we are at the moment, trying to thrash out any issues that maybe have not been clear to either of the parties.
The fighting is the worst in South Sudan since it won independence from Sudan in 2011 in a peace deal that ended one of Africa's longest civil wars. Over 200,000 people have been displaced by the fighting. Esther Kumbi, Citizen at 1.
Now, more than 20,000 heads of cattle have been badly hit by an acute shortage of water for the last 6 days in Taita after a private developer blocked the corridor herdsmen were using to reach a river that is the main source of water for the cattle. Now, the herdsmen say the situation is dire and they risk losing their entire herd of cattle.
In the midst of the unfolding water crisis, these two bulls perhaps utilize the remaining energy in restoring the pecking order in the herd. And women lift up their hands in prayer. It is a desperate situation. It has been 6 days without water for the more than 20,000 heads of cattle in Taita.
Kwenye shamba Kenyatta tulikuwa tunategemea hapa, na tunaomba kwamba kama ingewezekana hiyo maji tungeruhusiwa kunywa hata kuanzia leo, sababu tuko na siku 6 kabla hatujanywa maji.
The face of an acute water shortage whose cause is this. The corridor leading the cattle to the only permanent river here was closed down by a private developer.
Serikali yote tutafanyaje twende mtoni, maana leo ikipita ni lazima ng'ombe zinywe maji. Kama sivyo tuhamishe tupeleke kwa sehemu nyingine ambaye serikali labda itaona kuna nafasi yetu.
Herders are now calling on the government to intervene and request the owner of the land to allow them access the watering point. before their animals die. Judy Kosgei, Citizen at 1.
All right, we want to take a short break now, but when we return, we'll have business, more local news. And if you've ever read the book Lemony Snickets, a series of unfortunate events, that's what I can describe Arsenal's continuing win. Waiga Mawira will be joining us with the sports. Stay with Citizen at 1.